Hello, this is Gordon and SV. And it is August 14th, and today I want to talk about a minor issue that I am having with my own district. Um, One of the biggest issues is single family detached homes and the NIMBYs who are worried about the effects of higher density homes. Recently, and I'm using a few San Jose Spotlight articles, they did a pretty good job, and they usually do a fairly good job of researching, interviewing, and so forth. This particular one policy to build dense housing in San Jose neighborhoods has a vote that is delayed on just if we should have denser housing allowed in the zoning code. Um, if anybody out there is familiar with zoning and redlining, combine those two, or maybe even a morph from redlining to single family zoning. It's basically a way to be able to push out UDA on a class basis, and it just happens to be a coincidence that it typically pushes out UDA people across racial lines. In this article, they go through it. It's typically the article is actually about UDA, our 2040 plan review for the zoning code. They do this every 4 years, and they voted to push back this vote because there were so many people that commented on it. They only had 1 minute rather than the traditional 2 minutes to use their hands. You have comments here where people are worried about the transit use and whether or not people are in the planning committee are thinking, oh, well, we want to increase housing here along transit corridors. So people then question, well, what if people aren't using transit? Shouldn't that mean we shouldn't increase housing around my neighborhood? Well, people may not use transit, but if there are jobs that they can go to, which is one thing that we need to do, is improve transit to go through residential and then commercial zones, so that way people can get from where they live to where they have job opportunities. That's going to improve. People are using the pandemic and the lack of people using transit as an excuse as well, which is pretty frustrating because it's not a permanent thing. It may affect us permanently, but the lack of ridership due to the pandemic is not a lifetime issue that we're going to have to fight either across. I do not believe in 10 years or 5 years even that you're going to be wearing face masks and hand sanitizing it every time you get off the bus and whatnot. These are kind of unrealistic issues that people are bringing up around that specific transit use argument. People are also worried about UDA upzoning naturally because if you have a if you have 1 acre that can only have 8 units in it, then naturally you have a full stop order on how many units can be there. So as far as homeowners, they use that as an excuse to, well, it's defense of my property and my property value. Naturally, in my head, I think that if a property value will go down if there are more units in the area, and especially, don't get into the argument of if there are for affordable housing, then you might have, those other people come in and they could devalue my neighborhood, and you have really bad argument instead to that are never backed up. It's just hate, animosity, yeah, whether it's known or unknown, racism on behalf of the person saying it, and it's pretty trash that people won't try and help out people that when then they know that we're in a housing crisis. They just want them to build houses somewhere else. You know, that's the moderate Democrat. I believe that the moderate liberal, as MLK talked about being most ineffective and hurtful to people of color. The city also released a study on commercial development fees. Some people may not be familiar with what these are. Or, currently, as it stands, residential construction, new construction, over a certain amount of units. I forget how many it is. Might be 10, might be 7, might even be 14. I'd have to double check that. They have to either have design on-site affordable housing on their development, or they pay a fee to go towards future affordable housing. I might need to do a separate video on that. How short and sweet it's better to offer, or it's better to require the affordable housing units on the property that's being built now, because that it could take up who knows how many years to get the money to create an affordable housing development itself that the city has money, has funds for. It's typically 100 million dollars, so it takes a while to get there. And then on top of that, then you have to say, okay, then we need to find the land, then we need to have it designed, then we need to have it in construction. So you have a huge delay on when those actually come to fruition, which is the shortest argument I can make as far as why I don't think that a fee option should be available. We should try and find something else to do that. So, what a commercial linkage fee is actually a tax on new commercial buildings that would then end up be used to go towards affordable housing, and that's basically a tax on the developer who is putting a squeeze on land which could have been used for housing, because San Jose has a pretty big issue as far as being uneven in reference to how many jobs are available to how many living units are available. And when I say available, I just mean in existence in terms of housing units. So these are the types of new construction that would be paying fees, and it just happens to be that these are talked about right after a $2 million square foot or so Santana Row shopping mall expansion is just finished. That started 4 years ago, I believe. Had this been intact earlier, which handful of other big cities have, you would have a decent chunk of change to be provided for affordable housings, which would, in theory, have an opportunity to have affordable housing for any number of the either minimum wage or barely above minimum wage workers that would go into Santana Row and Valley Fair workers as a whole. No matter what, you wouldn't be able to cover all of them from just that one fund, obviously. But they did a study on it. It came up with how much commercial developments should be paying, which is reasonable based on what other cities charge and so forth, to make us as a city competitive in construction, because everybody says San Jose is not competitive in construction, which is silly, because if that were the case, people wouldn't build here. So it even right here, right now, San Jose only charges fees on residential all developments at about $18 per livable square foot. So this is also a huge plus. We want everybody to sign off on this. Um, so let's make sure that if you don't have it in your city, it might be something, either use somebody else's studies, such as San Jose's, to study. Yeah, maybe even probably very expensive to conduct a study of your own, and if it's in a smaller city or even a town, but try and put something out there, so that way either you get more money for transportation or more money for housing, and so forth. Another issue that we have when it comes to development is the amount of land that, or amount of properties that are actually lived in by the people who own the land. In the Bay Area, Contra Costa County has 61% of owner-occupied living units. I mean, the people whose name is on the tax bill are living at that property. I don't know where San Jose is on the list out of the, I think, 9 counties, but Contra Costa at 61% was the highest percentage of owner-occupied housing in the Bay Area. This article states that owner-occupied homes in the county, Santa Clara County, that is, has a 20-year low. A group of people study and present a report on this every year, and it's very clear here. I highlighted people aren't selling their homes; they just rent them, and it's true. People talk about a mass exodus from California, but people are leaving California only to rent their houses out so that way they can pay the bills on them. And then that's also keeping prices high or raising them even more if they want to create more of a profit. This is part of the argument that I've heard that, reducing, or, and even better, eliminating home value and owner in order to increase home ownership and home occupancy is pretty important, I'd say. When you come to the actual table here, where the report is, this comes out from the county assessor every year, or just in the past 9 years. There have been about 27,000 properties in which owner-occupied homes have become non-occupied from the owner. They still own the home. While that's the balance, of course, of people that own the homes, and 27,000 people are close to it rent their home more than they did before. It's something that we need to think about. To home ownership and buy into the community is what people are understandably looking for. Or communities that have buy-in typically have as long as they could afford it upkeep. But people that buy into their community also have a more friendly community, more open community, and I think that's what people or I have been saying that they want is having a better community, not just a better home. And I would pose a question as far as, if you have a whole bunch of nice detached homes and no community, or you have 4 times as many semi-detached homes and you have community buy-in, in the sense that everybody's involved in the community. There's community cleanup days, there's gatherings, there's block parties, they're, whatever. Where would you prefer to live? Anyway, in developing these communities and designing these communities, know that San Jose's Vision Zero is going to be a big focus on design of the roads. And in my opinion, having road design really be taken back by pedestrians and bikers, and I suppose now designed a little bit more for scooters as well, is going to be a big deal. There's a huge push with this Vision Zero to reduce fatalities and to reduce any injuries from people in cars compared to people not in cars. You see that the city is creating priority corridors, streets that account for major fatalities, and I would guess that because it's saying that they're in District 7, District 3, they are likely along Monterey Road, Center Road, Tully, roads that have a high degree of industrial services, and so I think that's one, needed, but two, I think that you also want to include residential areas that are either close to schools or close to places that are going to be able to attract future development in order to upzone that are going to be going from where places are to shop and eat and so forth. One area out of the many in the San Jose's District 9 that I'm imagining is this route here. This is the Branham Road from Cherry, and I'm imagining now there is a small. San Jose uses the word protected, but it's literally just plastic protection. There's a wide, probably 5 foot separation between the edge of the car lane and the edge of the bike lane before it starts, and then there's another 5 or 6 feet to the curb for the bike lane. That is in this stretch between the 87 and then Pearl. Actually, I think it ends around here. When I say separate bike lane, I mean like a cycle track that has a full curb installed. That would be serving less than 2 miles. In reality, it also should go down the Cherry as well to get to this main shopping center. And then it would also need to extend down Pearl in both directions. The issue, of course, are the many homes that you have on the main street and getting out. That's why, it would need to be proposed and approved, and then having something saying, pending upzoning, pending development along, this section of homes and so forth. So that way it can actually get done. I'm understanding of that, but I also think that we need to promote that. We need to show people what it's worth. This is also an interesting area because if it went up and down Pearl and it went down on the Cherry here, you're actually serving 4 different schools as well. When you serve those schools and have protection from kids on bikes, parents on bikes, the parents see that and just say, okay, maybe it's okay for my kid to bike to school. Kids bike to school regularly, it becomes a completely normalized thing. Then it becomes more of a bike culture, and they begin wanting that more. They start looking for policies that enact that. They start looking for, when they become voting age, they want more of that, not just for them, but maybe for their kid as well. You look at it, biking cities that are in the no, across Europe, I guess, really. And it's not even seen as a culture. It's just to them, it's not seen as a culture. To us, it is, but to them, it's just life. It's normalized. It's a bike in many in many cities across Amsterdam is just as normal as us having a car. And I think that that's what we should strive for. It's good on a getting outside factor, it's a health factor, it's a carbon emissions factor, it's a community factor, and you're gonna end up actually having a more shopping across these corridors as well, because there's a high level of people already outside of their car on a bike. So then you're also going to have a financial economic effect that it goes into the city and it pays us back. This was supposed to be a little bit shorter video today, but it kind of went off rambling for a little bit, and I'm still getting the hang of this whole thing. So I thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel down below. You can find me on the Twitter and Patreon at Gordon NSV. Thank you so much for watching. You have a great day.